Welcome everyone and thank you for tuning to this show. I'm your host MJ, and of course we're going to get into some more movie reviews. So in this segment, I'm going to be talking and discussing about the December 18, 2020 release of a disaster film called Greenland, and it's starring lead actor Gerard Butler, and also Gerard Butler is one of the producers of this film. So if you guys didn't know that, that's a key point you guys might want to know, that not only was Gerard Butler was he the producer of this film, he also was the leading actor in this film. Okay, so I think that was a very key point. It was directed by Rick Roman Wall. Okay, Rick Roman. As I said, this is a disaster film. There were other key characters supporting cast. We're talking about Marina Barkan playing Allison Garrity. Also, Scott Glenn playing Dale, which will be the father of Allison Garrity. And then we had Roger Floyd playing Nathan Garrity, which would be the son of Allison and John Garrity. Okay, so Gerard Butler played John Garrity, and Marina Barkan played Allison Garrity, and Scott Glenn played Dale, the actual grandfather of Roger Floyd, playing the character Nathan Garrity, which was the son of John and Allison. This was a good film overall. To me personally, this was a good film. I like this film. I think it was a very, very good film. I think the supporting cast was okay as well. It was decent. It was okay. It didn't have a strong supporting cast or like top key notch A-list actors in this film, except for Gerard Butler and Scott Glenn. But I still think it was a good film. All the way from the beginning to the end, this movie was good. It was on point. I think what was so relevant about this film is that what touched me first, I want to say this film touched me so much is because before I seen this film, because I watched this film, I just recently watched this film. And it's crazy because before I watched this film, I had a vision, or I had a dream, and I also had a new creative idea about coming up with a new screenplay, and it was pertaining to a specific, but in order for me coming up with a new idea for a screenplay, I had a vision, or should I say I had a dream. I couldn't tell whether I was astral projecting or I was lucid dreaming, but I had a dream that was kind of significant and relevant to this movie. So I thought that was just a real coincidence how it touched me. The whole backstory about, for instance, like a key specific part about individuals being chosen, and then they had someone they had to choose, or they already had people that was chosen as reservees. That means when it was time to get that call and it was time to go, it was people that you had as a reservee, and they got to go with you. People that were going to be basically to start the world over. Okay, that were considered to be important. So I had this why it resonated with me, because I had a dream similar to this, and then I had came up with the whole idea to come up with a screenplay. Now it was not going to be the same structure as this, but it was going to be kind of similar to it. So this is why I tell you guys, when you're talking about screenplays, you can have several people that have the same, their story is probably about the main general stories about the same thing, but they're not going to be the same. It doesn't matter if it's revolving around the same thing, they will not be the same. But anyways, this movie was good from the beginning to the end. There were some things that I was just very, very, very excited about. I like the character. I like the actress playing Allison Garrity. I like the job she did. She did a good job. I do have some things that I want to get to you guys and discuss about the character Allison Garrity, because I was just, what is she doing? Okay, but as I said, it didn't have a real strong cast, but I think that the cast it had, supporting cast, to the lead cast member Gerard Butler, I do think it was still a decent film. It was a good film. I highly recommend that you guys watch it if you haven't watched it. It was a much-watched film. Now, as I said, covers some things. The movie, the backstory of the movie is pretty much about meteors basically coming, crashing, coursing into the, or let's say a comet crashing or residue crashing from the sky and landing and start hitting certain sections of America or around the world, and it starts just destroying certain areas, and then it was multiple continuous residue and comets, or you want to say meteor strikes that were striking onto the earth and constantly. And so the whole movie, it got to be about where there were people that were trying to, basically everyone was scattering and trying to escape and get to the safe lands, or try to get to the lands where they said it was considered to be safe, which at the end of the movie we found out to be the actual title of the film, Greenland. That was the area that they said was the safe zone where they had these hidden bunkers and everything. But I like how the job with this movie, how they did by showing, I think it really touched base on reality, especially the real world, especially what we have going on all across the world now with the pandemic and all the protests and the civil movements. It really shows how the people are and citizens, how we react to when certain tragedies or a certain catastrophe would happen, or a certain mega disaster would happen, or certain things, etc., like that pertaining to that. It really shows how people, they lose themselves, how people, you just got to realize, understand that people you think you can trust, you cannot trust. Or it really touched based on showing that how people can just do some just horrible things or heinous things, or just not have no type of careness in their hearts. When things like this happen in certain situations, when people are put in certain situations, you start really seeing people's true colors. This is what I liked about this movie. It really showed it had a strong sense of this in this movie. It really showed it, because there were parts where I was just like, look at this, people are just acting a fool. But I think this touched base on reality. Out of the masses of people, the most percentage of people will not know how to survive a major disaster, or if we have to go into that major survival tactics mode. I've always been saying this, and just being my time on Earth and on this planet, and just watching, observing everyone, it's the same thing I always said. My philosophy is that the most percentage of people in civilization of people across the world would not survive a great big disaster or catastrophe, because of the fact most people don't have the survival techniques and skills, and most people would just lose their damn minds. Excuse my language, but they would lose their damn minds, and they would just flip out and just do the most heinous things. I think this movie, that was a strong key point. This movie really touched base on reality, and I like that it gave us that real, like, that reality, not just so much fiction. It touched base on reality. So I like that about this film. As I said, I do like that the fact that Gerard Butler, not only was he the lead actor, but to discover that he actually was one of the producers on this film. I think that was a very strong key point. I think that Gerard Butler, sorry ladies and gentlemen, Gerard Butler, I think he did a hell of a job, okay? Most things, 9 times out of 10, when you see Gerard Butler in something, it's going to be a banger. So I like that, and it was a good job. And this is right under his field of, okay, because matter of fact, the movie that he had before this that came out, I think about maybe 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, was Geostorm. That movie was active too. It was a very, very good movie. So if you guys didn't know, if you haven't seen that, I recommend you go check that out too. He was in that movie Geostorm as well. But as I said, the movie all around it was a good movie. It kept you tuned in. There was really no boring part to the movie. Now there are some things I want to discuss with you guys, and I was like, Marina Bakarin. If I'm pronouncing her name wrong, I'm sorry. Excuse me, pardon me. But the actress Marina Bakarin, the lead actress Marina Bakarin, playing Allison Garrity, which would be John Garrity's wife. I was so upset with her at times throughout this movie, because I'm like, Allison, what are you doing? She kept repeating and making the same BS mistakes. Number one, I could not understand when John Garrity, played by Gerard Butler, I could not understand when John Garrity left to go and retrieve the insulin for Roger. Well, the insulin for Nathan Garrity, when he went to go retrieve the insulin from his vehicle. I couldn't understand after everything, when the explosion and everything, and the explosion of the airplanes at the little airport. I could not understand how when Allison and Nathan had went all the way back towards where all the vehicles were, I could not understand for what reason. Why would she go and just start walking off and take her son and just start walking off and leave all alone without John Garrity with her? That was the number one mistake. I couldn't understand that. And then as you've seen, as they're walking along these streets, seeing how all these people out here acting a fool and crazy, why would you just go start walking off with you and your child by yourself without your husband? It made no sense. And then you seen that John Garrity, he had to go and try to find them, because he had realized that they must have just went off and started walking off and just whatever. So I guess the original base point, she was trying to attempt to find insulin, but also maybe possibly get to her father's house, Dale, played by Scott Glenn. Which you guys don't know, Scott Glenn is a legendary banger from the classic horrors, such as a film like Pumpkinhead. So John Glenn is majorly known for the classic horror Pumpkinhead, okay? But as I said, and that was one of the mistakes she made. That was one of them. She kept making repeated mistakes. I remember in the point where she got in the car with the couple, her and Nathan. She got her and Nathan in the car with the couple, and then eventually the couple wound up turning on her and trying to take her son so they can try to get their asses on the plane. So they use her son as a scapegoat and just threw her out the car. That was the number 2 mistake. And then the number 3 mistake, she kept, like I said, it kept being a repeated thing about Allison. I kept remembering through the film, like, Allison, what are you doing? What are you doing, Allison Garrity? What are you doing? Because she kept making the same mistakes over and over. I'm like, why are you keep doing this? Like, haven't you learned? And that's why I touched bases about how this movie touched base on reality about how the most percentage of people would react and would not survive, but just would act a damn fool. Like, this was a perfect film. It showed how the most percentage of people would act because they do not know how to handle or would not know how to handle a catastrophe or a major disaster, okay, or apocalypse, okay, or an end of the world scenario. But I just remember I kept like, Allison, what are you doing? Allison Garrity, what are you doing? And then the 3rd time she did it again when she was after her son got taken by the couple and they were headed back to supposed to the airport where the planes were. Seeing how it was kind of irrelevant and stupid because most of the planes, I think all the planes that got blew up anyway when that one plane exploded from the gas leak. But anyways, I remember the 3rd time when she was walking all by herself and the car pulled over with, I believe, some immigrants and started talking. And then they invited her in the car, and then she decided to get in the car with them. But that was another mistake. Like, how many times you going to keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over? There were 3 separate times that you made the mistake that could have cost not only your life, but could have cost your son's life as well. But I'm just like, Allison, why do you keep making these certain mistakes? You don't keep just doing this with strangers, especially with a catastrophe going on. I mean, it just kept going on. There was 3 times where I'm just like, Allison, what are you doing? Allison Garrity, what are you doing? So I think that was one of my most significant parts about that film, about Greenland, the movie Greenland, the disaster film. It's just like, Allison. I do think that Marina Baccarin, if I'm pronouncing her last name wrong, I'm sorry, but it's kind of weird. I believe it's Marina Baccarin playing Allison Garrity. I do like how her performance was. She did do a good job. She performed it well, and she did a excellent job on it with her performance. But I just remember I kept saying to the film, like, Allison, you making these stupid decisions. See, this is what I'm talking about people not being able to survive a real major disaster or catastrophe or something like that, or a mega disaster. I'm like, what are you doing? This is unacceptable. Like, you keep making same mistake after same mistake. So I just thought that was so hilarious, but I'm just getting flabbergasted and just getting frustrated with Allison. Like, Allison Garrity, what are you doing? Like, you keep making the same mistakes and then wondering why certain things keep happening. So I think she kept making a repeated mistake over and over and over by trusting people and just putting herself in, yet alone her son, Nathan Garrity, in just bad predicaments over and over and over. And I just think that was silly. But like I said, it was key points in the movie that I loved it though, but I was just remember getting flabbergasted. I was loving the movie the whole time because I was always stuck in the movie and I was enjoying it. But I do remember, like, at that point, I'm like, Allison, man, you gotta knock this off, or you gonna, like, at some point, I'm like, okay, she gonna die because she just keep making dumb decision after dumb decision. But it was good to see that she did not die. And then, so that was a good thing to see that she did not die in the film. Other than that, let's see. Scott Glenn. What can I say about Scott Glenn? As I can tell you guys, Scott Glenn, he did a good job for the small roles that he had. He did a good job. I wasn't surprised that he was in the film. Okay, he's well known, as I said. We're talking about the classic horrors. We're talking about the classic horror genre movies. The famously known movie Pumpkinhead. Okay, they've had many Pumpkinhead movies, but that's one of the movies that you guys would know him from. He's been in other projects, but that's a major banger that he was in, the classic cult horror Pumpkinhead. He only had small roles, but I think he still did a good job. He just did a perfectly job. I do think now, what I really want to touch base on is the Roger Floyd. Roger Floyd playing the character of Nathan Garrity, playing Allison and John Garrity's son. I do think that This kid did a good job. I mean, I really love the job that this kid did. He's a young kid right now, but I think he did a hell of a job. Like, he really gave you the emotion, not just he gave you the emotion, but he also gave you the reality of a child with their parents being caught in a situation like that. He made it so believable. It didn't seem like it was staged or forced. Like, even the crying scenes, I know he was crying multiple times throughout the movie, like, but he made it reality. It didn't seem like it was forced, like the crying was forced. It felt real. So I think that Roger Floyd playing Nathan Garrity, I think that was a hell of a job by the young kid as well, the young actor. He did a good job. Overall, what was my rating? If I had to give a rating to this film, I would give this film a 9 or a 9.5 rating overall, because I really didn't have nothing negative to say about this film. I just think it was an amazing job. I think it was a banger, and I think if you haven't watched this film, I highly recommend you go watch this film. Now, I could have went more into depth in this film, but I didn't want to spoil the whole complete film, so I just wanted to touch base on certain things. But as I know some of you may not have watched it yet, but if you haven't, make sure you go check out the disaster film Greenland, titled Greenland. It's available on HBOMax. I don't know how long it'll be available on HBOMax, so if you have HBOMax, make sure you go ahead and check it out right now, because some things are sometimes HBOMax, they'll only have it available for certain times. So this is a much-watch movie on a good movie night. Go ahead and check out the Greenland movie. It's a good banger, starring Gerard Butler, Marina Baccarin, Scott Glenn, and Roger Floyd. Definite banger. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. You guys already know what to do. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to share this video. So until next time, peace and blessings.